The bustling market town of Forfar hides a terrible secret. In the 17th century, it was the scene of a terrible witch hunt, which resulted in the torture and execution of several local women. According to the town council's records, the witch hunt appears to have been triggered in 1661 by an argument between Isabel Shirey, a poor woman who was unable to pay her taxes, and Bailey George Wood, a tax collector. During the quarrel, Isabel cursed Bailey Wood, so when the unfortunate man dropped dead suddenly, all fingers pointed at Isabel. In those days, there were 3 ways to spot a witch. She went by a nickname instead of the name she was baptised with, there was a mark on her body that was impervious to pain, or she practised malefice, which was the use of supernatural means to do evil. Isabel was widely believed to be guilty of malefice, which was proof enough for her to be sent to the dungeon below the Tolbooth, which was situated on the road next to the townhouse in Forfar town centre. Stirred up by the borough's new minister, James Robertson, the hunt was soon underway for the other witches in Isabel's coven.
James Robertson was obviously a very enthusiastic witch hunter. He needed to get the official go-ahead from the town council, so he would be gathering evidence, bringing the town council on board. They would then start the whole process of interviewing witches such as Isabel Shirey, accused of the murder by malefice, that is by evil means, of Bailey George Wood, a very, very serious accusation.
Helen Guthrie, Isabel's best friend, and well known for her knowledge of the healing powers of herbs, was next to be taken to the Tolbooth for questioning, along with her 13-year-old daughter Janet Howitt, who was judged to be a witch simply because her mother was a witch. Helen knew the terrible fate that lay in wait for her now she had been named as a witch, but she was determined to save her daughter. So she named names and gradually confessed to the terrible things the coven had carried out, confident the town council would not execute her or her daughter as long as she was providing them with information. Drinking in the graveyard at midnight, dancing on gravestones, digging up an unbaptized baby to concoct magic potions, performing rites of black magic on the beach at Barry, cavorting with the devil on the island in the centre of Forfar Loch. The witches had indeed been up to no good, and Helen, Janet and Isabel were soon joined in the dark, cold dungeon by more women, who were all tortured mercilessly until they also confessed to being witches. The first witch to die was Gursel Simpson. Janet Bertie and Helen Alexander were banished from the town, which was basically a sentence to a long, slow death from cold and starvation. At least 6 suspected witches were executed on the play field, which is now Victoria Street, in full view of the inhabitants of Forfar, who treated each execution as a day out. The women were strangled first, and then their bodies burnt in a barrel of tar, with the heavy smoke blowing across the cheering spectators and right over the town. Helen Guthrie was one of the witches executed on the play field, but for some reason her orphan daughter Janet was left behind in the dungeon.
In Angus archives, we hold one of the treasurer's accounts for an execution of a witch. You'll see that there's one little entry that says, "Item, gone to Montrose to fetch the executioner for Janet Howitt." So it looks like in 1663 Forfar was fully intending to execute a girl who would have been no more than about 15 at this stage.
In 1666, James Guthrie, a lawyer from Dundee, pleaded with the town council for Helen Guthrie's daughter to be set free.
It may be that James is looking after members of his extended family and that there was nobody else to take care or to take pity on Janet at all. Certainly after nearly 5 years in prison, he's writing a petition to the Privy Council asking them to release her, try her or let her go because she's in a terrible piteous state. And we still don't know exactly how it all ended, but that's the last document that has so far emerged about Janet Howitt.
And as there is no note of a further execution, it can only be assumed that at the age of 18 years, Janet was finally released from her dark and lonely prison. The Forfar witch hunt was finally over, and although most of those accused of being witches met a very nasty end, a few survived, and it may well be that there are descendants of the women accused of being the Forfar witches living in the town today.